a consultant for SSM Health. We are excited that you're joining us tonight. As you may or may not know, in July we rebranded our St. Louis hospitals as SSM Health. Now, for years you've known us by many names throughout the St. Louis area, and now we're coming together under one name. For our communities in and around St. Charles County, that name change may raise some questions. So tonight we're going to be answering those questions. If you have a question that you would like answered, you're welcome to email us. Email us at askssm@ssmhc.com, or you can tweet us or post on our Facebook wall. Just search for SSM Health. Here tonight to answer your questions, we have Lyle Westcott and Mike Bowers. Lyle and Mike, thank you so much for being with us. Tell us a little bit about yourselves as it relates to SSM Health.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Kate. I'm Lyle Westcott. I'm the president of SSM Health St. Joseph Hospital in Lake St. Louis. I actually had the opportunity to join SSM in 2004, so I've been with SSM for a little over 10 years. Prior to that, however, I had a career in social work and earned a degree, my master's in social work from California State University, Fresno. And in my healthcare career, I have done primarily planning, strategy, business development, and have been in the role at St. Joseph Hospital in Lake St. Louis for about 3.5 years as the president, and certainly focusing primarily on hospital operations.
Great. I'm Mike Bowers. I'm president of SSM Health St. Joseph Hospital here in St. Charles and as well over in Wentzville. I've been part of the SSM family now for about 15 months. Prior to joining SSM in 2014, I was out in California for about 2 years with Dignity Health, and then prior to that, I spent a lot of my career in Texas. I worked with an organization that's based in Dallas that had a calling to help smaller hospitals and organizations in the healthcare space across the country. So I had a lot of planes, trains, and automobiles over 8 years. And prior to that, I was in Houston, working in the Texas Medical Center with MD Anderson, Memorial Hermann Healthcare System. So excited to be part of the SSM team now, and it's been a great 15 months.
Well, thank you, and thanks again for being with us tonight. I know you guys are very busy. Let's get right into questions. We have already had quite a few emailed into us, but just so everyone remembers, you can email those questions, askssm@ssmhc.com, or tweet us or Facebook us. Okay, first question tonight. A lot of people want to know, what are some of the visible changes taking place as a result of the new brand?
Sure, I'll start. You know, when you go through a brand change, you have to look and see everything that you have in place, and so it is quite a journey when you begin to launch something new. So the first thing that we'll see in the communities is really the exterior of all of our buildings and our physician practices. We'll begin to have the SSM Health brand very prominent on the buildings. That's going to happen later this fall, and then part and parcel of that brand change, we also took the time as we sort of refocused on who we were and where we want to go, which we'll talk about a little bit later in our time together. What really resonates with our communities and what's important, and how do they feel about healthcare and accessing healthcare. One of the things that came out of that was just the simplicity of naming. So what really resonated was the name hospital, was the name medical group and doctor's office, and the name outpatient center. So as we launched our brand, one of the things you'll see in conjunction with the brand going on the facilities is also a name change to our facilities. So the health center, as it's been called for a number of decades now, is now named SSM Health St. Joseph Hospital in St. Charles. And likewise in Wentzville, it's no longer SSM Healthcare St. Joseph Health Center in Wentzville. It's SSM Health St. Joseph Hospital in Wentzville.
And similarly, in Lake St. Louis, many of you are familiar with that campus, as we affectionately called it, Hospital West. But same as Mike just described, we will also be known now as SSM Health St. Joseph Hospital in Lake St. Louis. And I think you know, the main thing we want all of you to know is we're still St. Joe's.
Yeah, that's the key thing. Even when we're changing the brand to reflect a more brand-centric element across the entire St. Louis marketplace, we're still the same family. It's still St. Joe's. It's still the same people that here that are dedicated every day to providing high-quality, exceptional care. So we're excited about it. In fact, it's not indifferent to how we started. one of the things that really resonated with us as an organization and with our community as we went through this process of kind of looking at a new brand was the connection to our heritage was so strong. You know, the Sisters Religious landed in the shores of Mississippi 143 years ago. And it's the same mission today that they had then when the sisters called upon us. And here in St. Charles, you know, 130 years ago or so, when they showed up to support the community with their smallpox and cholera issues, it's that same heritage that exists. I think that really is unique for us.
The only other thing that I would add, and it's a significant footprint in our St. Charles community, is our medical group. So you will also see, and you've experienced us by many different names in St. Charles, from St. Charles Clinic Medical Group to SSM Healthcare Medical Group. We've often been referred as it's our physician organization. And so likewise, as we come together to be known as the hospitals, all of our medical groups will also come together and be known as SSM Health Medical Group. And in St. Charles, we have over 19 locations geographically distributed to ensure that we have convenient access for all of you. And so again, with a phased approach, you will start seeing that exterior signage change with these new naming conventions. And then, of course, interior signage will also start to change, but again, through a phased approach.
I think in addition to that, and while we have all these various access points, we function as a single entity. And we put a lot of investment into our electronic health record. In fact, we were just named again for the second year in a row the most wired healthcare system in the country. So very excited about that. So no matter where you go, with all these access points, your information travels with you. And it's part of who you're at and where you're at, and it stays with you. And that's important for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything goes back to making it easier for our patients, who are the reason why we do what we do. And, you know, Mike, you touched on the history and the heritage behind SSM Health in St. Charles County. And it makes me think toward the future as well, because there's so much stuff going on right now, and a couple construction projects as well to look to for the future. Anything you can tell us about those?
Yeah, absolutely.
You may go.
Go ahead.
Start again. Ladies first.
Absolutely.
So we'll start out west, out at Lake St. Louis, and very excited to share with you all the major master facility plan that we are undergoing out at Lake St. Louis. We are in the midst of adding a 3-story patient tower on top of the south side of our hospital. It will increase our bed capacity by about 80 beds. And in addition to that, we actually are going to be fitting out what we call a diagnostic testing center in the center of our hospital on the main level. It's actually a 2-story diagnostic testing center. The main floor will house many of our outpatient departments that are scattered throughout the hospital and pull them together under one convenient location with a centralized registration. The lower level will house our laboratory, expanded laboratory, and in addition to that, we've heard a lot from our community about parking on our campus, and as we grow, yes, here too, here on the eastern side as well. Again, it's about convenient access though, and so we are adding a parking deck on our campus, and it will add over 200 parking spots as we grow. We know that we will need to continue to expand our services, and especially those support departments that support those new beds that we'll be offering. And you know, largely St. Joseph Hospital in Lake St. Louis has really evolved over our almost 30-year tenure in Lake St. Louis, and we had started really as a feeder hospital to St. Joseph here in St. Charles. And over the recent years have really evolved to be a counterpart to our sister hospital here on the eastern side, and just have a tremendous opportunity to continue to service our community on the western side and grow to meet those demands in a growing population.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing story. That hospital, you know, being built 29 years ago, where the community was, and the growth that part of the county has seen.
Yeah.
You know, really for us to be able to reinvest in the community by having a sense of legacy that's going to continue for another 30 years to best serve that community is really a great testament not only to the hospital and SSM and our commitment, but the community support of what we're doing out there from a mission standpoint. So in that's kind of really one of our major projects across the entire SSM family. We're in 4 different states, have now soon to be 20 hospitals, and the investment into the hospital at Lake St. Louis is right now the most significant financial investment we're making, and it's a huge statement to Lyle and her team and the community there. One of the challenges we have in healthcare, because it's significantly changing and significantly evolving, is how do we redefine access? Because we know, the buzzword population health and really, figuring out how do we help our community live healthy lifestyles and impact their health on a whole other level really means for us, how do we define cost of care and access to care in a different way? So as we're building the core expansion of the hospital at the lake, we're also looking at different access points on the other ends of the county. So out in Wentzville, very excited about, just the growth of Wentzville in general. I was visiting with the mayor a couple of weeks ago. He came to our brand launch and was just sharing all the exciting things that are going on across the community there. And we're part of that growth as well. So in May, we launched the coming out of the ground, if you will, of a 22,000 square foot outpatient center at the corner of Wentzville Parkway and Myers Parkway. And the idea there was really to create a more convenient access points for the communities that we serve in Warren and Lincoln County. We have a pretty significant presence up in Troy. We have a lot of physicians through the western part of the county area. And a lot of patients that we serve there have a need for accessing care a little bit differently. Tend to be a younger population, a family population, and we wanted something that really resonated with that community. That outpatient center is going to really serve as that entry point for healthcare there. So it's primary care based. We're looking at convenient hours. Certainly recognize that many families are working families. It's difficult to take off work to come to the hospital or come to the physician's office or doctor's office at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But it may be more convenient to come at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So we're working with our physician partners to expand hours in the outpatient center. And then wrapping around that, a really complementary ancillary service, so laboratory functions, a full imaging suite, so a brand new MRI machine, CT machine, other diagnostic capabilities, again with those convenient hours that makes it much more usable for the community. We have an extremely busy ER on that campus, and in fact we do about 19,000 visits in that ER, and it was a need of a little TLC. It has been a while since we've addressed that, and the team is very passionate about the care they provide to that community. And we really needed to step up our game a little bit and make it a standard that we hold out there for everybody. So we started a project about 5 weeks ago to refresh the ER. We're still providing ER services while we're doing that refresh. And I was told yesterday we're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. So we're going to be done in about 4 or 5 more weeks. So really excited about that. And then if you travel all the way back here east to the shores of Missouri, I'm learning to say it correctly. We got a lot going on here too. So we were fortunate enough last year when I first got here that we were able to purchase the Collins building, which had been in the community for 30 plus years. A number of different families had invested into that and used it as a meeting place, a gathering place, a community place. So a lot of families have touched that with weddings, receptions, all kinds of school stuff. A lot of history there. Yeah. So of course what did we do? We bought it and we tore it down. But it was for a purpose, and that was to create, again, the sense of legacy, where we're going to go, and again, redefining access for the community was so important. So we took that down about a month ago, and we are planning to come out of the ground sometime in November, December timeframe with a 56,000 square foot, 3-story outpatient center. And in that will be a lot of the similar ideas that we just discussed. And, primary care access, expansion of primary care, recruitment of more physicians to support that basic base, the support services that help that. So again, another full imaging center, so MRI, CT, digital mammography, all those things that will go in there. We're going to relocate our urgent care from the Wall Street location and actually expand that. Right now it's about a 4 or 5 roomed platform. We're going to take that to about an 8-room platform. So we're going to be able to expand capacity and ease of access for urgent care. And then retail pharmacy. And one of the things I'm really excited about in that center, we have a lot of members of our community that have chronic diseases. And that really, quite honestly, in our country is one of the biggest challenges we have, is helping our communities be compliant with their chronic diseases and managing that effectively. So we see a lot at our hospitals and in our physician practices, a lot of chronic heart failure, CHF, a lot of pulmonary diseases, a lot of diabetes going on in the community. So we're building and framing around it a chronic disease clinic, a place where a patient can come. It's very patient-centric. So it's kind of a one-stop model where, you know, a patient that now doesn't have to go 5 different places to see different points of their care. They can come to one place and have their health taken care of. And I think that's the key piece as we look at health. And that really was, you know, it's germane to the name change to SSM Health. And as well kind of frames what we want to be for the community on an ongoing basis. So we're really excited about it. And in fact, I think when we added it up on the back of the envelope the other day, it's almost $110 million of investment in St. Charles in the next 2 years. So it's a great opportunity for the community. We're excited to be part of it.
Mike, another question for you. Someone wanting to know about a possible project talking about potentially St. Joseph Hospital St. Charles being in talks to acquire the St. Charles Post Office, which would then relocate to the new Schnucks Shopping Center near Lindenwood. Any update you can give on that project?
Yeah, never heard of that one.
It's just a rumor.
It's a rumor. You know, it's the first question I got when I came here. What are we going to do about the post office? I had no idea. You know, you go, you mail your mail, and you do whatever.
What does post office have to do with healthcare?
What does that have to do with healthcare? I couldn't figure it out. So, but now I know, and we're very actually excited about it. So really, actually, it's a story that goes back, as far as we can tell, it's about 16 years old, and it really is framed with, you know, our ability to grow the hospital here in St. Charles, to really have sort of the similar story what Lyle shared about making sure we have the right platform for the community to best serve it. And we're really kind of landlocked right now. It's a little bit more of a dense urban area. The streets of St. Charles are very vibrant. The entire community is on a growth curve. And we need to be able to platform this hospital in the right place. Well, to do that, we actually have to have some elbow room. And the most logical place, when you look at the streets that surround us and what sits on our property, is the corner that's on the northwest side that right now sits the post office. So 16 years later, after that story began to start, we actually finally signed off on all of our agreements. Lindenwood University was a great partner with us, was a big part of that process. The post office was the post office, and the city and our developer that developed the University Commons all kind of played a big part in that. So we've signed all the agreements at the beginning of June. And
they're in the mail?
And they're in the mail. Yeah, hopefully they don't get lost.
That would be bad.
All that's all been done. All the sort of I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. In fact, we left the permit from the city last week. And so now we're just waiting on the actual post office to recognize our final contingency checkoffs, which they have. And so I'm hopeful in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to have a more formal announcement about timelines and when it's going to happen. And in fact, actually today, if you're out and about in the community, and if you're there by the Schnucks, we actually have dirt being moved in. So we have some construction fence that's going up, a little bit of activity, some dirt coming from Lyle's project as well as the project out in Wentzville, maximizing that. So really close, really excited, and more to come.
All right, a couple of questions coming in back to the name change. People wanting to know why SSM Health thought the brand change was necessary and the right thing to do at this time.
So
great question.
I think that's a great question, and I think that I'll start with, you know, we know based on research that consumers choose you know, an organization or a restaurant or whatever it might be based on certainly reputation and trust and what have you. And as Mike and I started, fortunately, St. Joe's has a tremendous reputation in this community, but because we've been known by so many different names, we didn't feel that we had really embraced the one organization that really effectively then could capture that brand promise and the trust that consumers would go, oh, I know what SSM Health is. I know who they are, I know where they are, and I trust them. So that whether I'm in Missouri or I'm in Southern Illinois or I'm in Oklahoma, boy, if I find myself in one of those places, I trust SSM Health, and I am going to go there to seek my care. Because we had not come together as one organization, we might have positive impressions and experiences in those local regions, but it was not well known as our overall organization. And so based on research, it was time, perception, research, it was time for us to make a change.
Yeah, well answered. I think I would only add to that as we really look where healthcare is changing to, as an organization, we want to be on the forefront of that change process. We want to be seen as a change agent in an industry that is constantly evolving, and a lot of unknowns are coming to reality, or having to be dealt with in reality versus just on paper or scratching your head. And because we're in 4 different states, and we do have soon to be 20 hospitals, and I don't know what our physician count is now, but it's well above 7,000 physicians in the markets that we're in. Having us wrapped around a single brand is very important as we lead sort of that change in the industry. So that was another component of it as well.
We are getting a couple questions coming in regarding dropping of the word care from SSM Healthcare. Have you guys heard that at your hospitals, and what are you telling people about that name change?
Well, first, we didn't take the care out of healthcare. That is kind of cheeky as it is. It really is about, in my mind, the term care kind of implies a single episode of support. You come in for an ER visit and it's a care. You might come in for a particular procedure and it's a care. And as we define where healthcare is going, we're really looking at, we can't continue to do that in our country. We can't continue to afford to provide just care. We're going to have to help our communities and our patients in those communities really own their health and really have healthy communities. And that's important from an economic perspective, but it's also important just from a moral perspective. And that really, I think, resonated with our values and our heritage and what we're about, and the calling the Sisters Religious had when they showed here. So that was important for us. So the word health is more global, and it's more encompassing, and allows us to do different things tactically as well as partner with our communities in different ways.
You answered that beautifully. I don't have anything else to add.
Now, talking about the entire organization, are other people wanting to know on Facebook if the other hospitals are changing as well?
So yes. So again, as we had communicated, in St. Charles, all of the hospitals will have a similar naming convention. So DePaul Health Center, as you maybe have known it, our hospital at 70 and 270, will be known as SSM Health DePaul Hospital in St. Louis. And similarly, our hospital in St. Mary's in Richmond Heights and St. Clair and Fenton. So we'll all have the same naming conventions. And over time, our other regions will also follow those same hospital naming conventions, as well as the medical group.
Yeah. In fact, we started with this at our corporate offices, which is logical, last October. And then when we opened our brand new hospital over in Jefferson City, our Mid-Missouri region, as we call it, went through that naming change already. So they're referred to in that market as SSM Health St. Mary's in Jefferson City.
A question coming in on Twitter wanting to know about billing. Anything changing from the billing side of things? What if somebody writes a check, SSM Healthcare? Are we going to be okay here?
Oh yeah. So as you go through a change of name, there's a lot of DBA, doing business as, and a lot of perfunctory legal documents that have to get crafted through. But from a payment perspective, we've put a lot of time and energy over the last 2 years with our revenue cycle. We've got some other things planned to make our invoicing and our billing a little bit more patient friendly. So you'll see some of those changes as we change our brand. But relative to paying us, SSM Health, SSM Healthcare all work.
Now, it's obviously quite the undertaking. A couple employees have said, they still see the SSM Health care on whether it be a various sign or a piece of paper. What does that process look like, changing everything to the new hospital names that includes SSM Health?
Well, as you can imagine, it's a massive undertaking, not only from signage, but you think about all of the collateral material that we have. You think about any of the internal documents that we provide, and externally as well. So massive undertaking, and I would say probably true to one of our values of stewardship. You could certainly approach that in one fell swoop and really flip the switch and do that overnight. As you can imagine, that would be quite the undertaking, as you mentioned. But again, being true to one of our values of stewardship, we decided to phase that, and so we are starting with external signage. Over a course of the next 6 months or so, we'll be utilizing and using up current stock, and we'll then hit a time in 6 months where everything will start to change. You have to eventually have kind of that hard line, if you will, but it will be a phased approach. You will start seeing, though, however, billboards and digital and ads and commercials, hopefully you already have, that do have our new name, and you will continue to see that. But I anticipate that within the next year or so, really all of our new brand will be fully out there in the community.
Now, talking about, you guys are obviously, your hospital's very involved in the community, and whether it's sponsorships or employee involvement, how do you get this large change out to your community and your community members?
Well, I think fortunately for us, we have really strong relationships in the community. In fact, when we did our brand launch, we had probably 30 or 40 community members that were here at the hospital in St. Charles, probably equal to that in Lake St. Louis. So I think that relationship's already there, and really it's just re-educating everybody about what the brand means. And so we take the opportunities. Lyle and I speak all over the county, different events, whether it's a Rotary or another advisory board function in another nonprofit or another setting, or a chamber meeting or whatever. We take the advantage to educate on that. So, and I think with the advertising that's going to come later in the fall and whatnot, I think those things will begin to resonate pretty quickly.
I think SSM, especially in St. Charles, has had a very rich history of partnering with our community and being very visible in our community, and what I would call probably a very grassroots approach. So we do belong, as Mike said, to various Rotaries and chambers. We sit side by side with other not-for-profits in our county. We just participated recently in Bowie's Senior Health Fair, and what a great event that was. The fall proves to be another busy season for us with other upcoming events, and really we feel that we are partners in health in our community and should be doing those things with our other community partners in order to truly improve the health of our population.
It's definitely an exciting time. Another question coming in, SSM recently announced an agreement to acquire SLU Hospital. Will this in any way affect my health care in St. Charles County?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something we're incredibly excited about. For us, it's really a reconnection to heritage as well. Sisters, many moons ago, provided a lot of support to the university as they're developing the hospital there. I'm not sure how many, 130 plus years ago, I'm sure, at this point in time.
I think it was the early 1900s.
Yeah, maybe so.
When they called upon us to provide care at St. Mary's Infirmary.
Yeah, so going back to our inception 143 years ago. Incredibly excited. September 1st is the date that SLU becomes part of the SSM family. Initially, I don't think we'll feel any impact to that out here in St. Charles and really some of our other community hospitals. It's going to take some time. So when a major transaction like that happens, there's usually a bridge There's usually a time to integrating the business into the other platform, and so that's going to be probably the priorities for Kate Becker, who's our peer at the University Hospital now, and her team and our corporate support teams to do that. And we have to still build those strategies. So, in time, I think we can look at tapping into some of the residency programs, certainly from a physician recruitment standpoint, some other specialty recruitment standpoints we can build upon, the teams that we have out here and the expertise that we have out here, and just, again, create a different level of access. And I think it goes the other way as well. We've had numerous conversations with some of our ER physicians and some of our surgeons about, a higher level of care. Now that we have this level 1 trauma center, academic medical center that's part of the SSM family, how do we make it easy to transfer patients that need to go there for that level of care? So there's a great opportunity for us to figure out those issues and efficiencies and make it really seamless for the community if we need to go that direction.
The only thing that I would add is really it's complementary. It completes what I would say our full continuum of care and provides us with that access to really the highest level, the tertiary care, and is complementary to what we're doing, as opposed to, I think sometimes when you think about mergers or acquisitions or what have you, they can sometimes appear to be disruptive, and in this particular case, I think all I have heard is excitement about what this means for our two organizations.
It definitely is an exciting time for SSM Health, and especially before we head out though tonight, I do want to see if you guys want to take a moment to really give any last thoughts, what you're hearing from your employees, what you've been hearing from the community members, anything that we haven't had a chance to answer that you could kind of wrap up for us this evening, because I know it's a lot of information and it's a lot of exciting developments, but just, what have you guys been hearing from the community and from your own employees?
Well, I think for me here at the hospital in St. Charles, two things. One is the amount of pride from our employees and what they do day in and day out. Just the commitment to the calling of healthcare and taking care of the community when they walk through our doors. There's a great sense of pride and ownership around that. So there's great stories that are shared and told, and a lot of connections that are very personal with that relationship. And then the stories we hear from outside the community. We get calls and letters, and people actually even drop in to administration just to say, I want to thank, so-and-so on this floor, or this person on this unit or this area, because they impacted my life and it was an amazing experience. So that gives me a lot of pride and joy that our community recognizes what we do and it's more than just that care episode. It's that relationship. So that's been very gratifying, and we hear more and more of that every day. So that's been a lot of fun to be a part of that process.
Well, I would say that the only constant is change, and healthcare is very fluid. It's a very complex system, and systems are designed to get the results that they get. And so until we re-engineer the system to get different results, which we feel like we need to within healthcare, because our current healthcare system is not sustainable. Mike already alluded to that in terms of both economic and human terms. And so, like Mike, I would say our employees, our physicians, our community are really wrapping their arms around this healthcare transformation. We've seen great collaborations. We've seen great partnerships with sometimes not the usual kind of suspects, if you will. And it's a very exciting time. Kate, you used that word exciting a few times, and it truly is. It can be somewhat overwhelming, I think, for those of us that live it on a day-to-day basis. As I've shared with many friends and family, I've never been more overwhelmed yet exhilarated at the same time, because we really are at a point in healthcare where we have the opportunity to be involved in its transformation. And I think we're seeing, at least within SSM Health, I can speak for SSM Health, we're really on a journey of healthcare transformation.
with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for watching this evening, and we will, of course, put this out on our social media channels, so if you didn't get a chance tonight to watch it, you can watch it anytime. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon.